Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to another HAYVN Hubcast episode. I am excited to be here with Holly Hurd of Venture Mom. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. It's really fun to be here.
Holly, I think I've known you definitely before HAYVN, but it's exciting that HAYVN has sort of brought us back together. Venture Mom is your baby. Venture Mom is I don't even know how to put the words around it, a collective, but you've sort of been following or tracking or, kind of created this community of venture moms well over 10 years ago. But that's not probably how you got started in the working world. So can you kind of give us a little history of how Venture Moms came to be and sort of what you were doing and before that and what was the catalyst?
I interview women who have their own businesses. And I always ask the question, what did you used to do? Because so many women who have businesses, they had a career before. My career was trading commodities, and my father taught me how to trade from the time I was 12. Wow. So after we had to go to college, but then I traded my own account and I developed it into a hedge fund. So I never worked for anyone else. And my kids, use terms like PTO. And I'm like, what is that? They're like, Mom, you don't know because you never had a boss. You never had to take time off. I'm like, yeah, well, I made trades. I went to the hospital and delivered you. And then a day and a half later, I was nursing you while I was making trades again. So yeah, I never had a boss. I didn't know what personal time off was. I had a day and a half for each child. That was it. So yeah, I never worked for anyone else, but working for yourself is a full-time job, but it's always a passion. At Venture Mom, we say your business is your baby. And every woman I talk to feels that way. It's something that they've created and they're putting out into the world. And, they want their baby to succeed and they feel very personal about it. I know you probably want to know how I started Venture Mom. I went from trading. Once I had my third child, then I went to the money raising side. And I met these interesting women who had businesses. And I've always loved motivational books. And I wanted to write my own motivational book. So I came up with the title, 12 Steps to Find Your Fulfillment. And I had my 12 steps, but I wanted to pepper it with stories. So I started interviewing the people in my world, which I felt were motivated and fulfilled. And it turns out they were women who had started their own businesses. And a lot of them were moms who had left a traditional workforce and they were going back to something in the past, whether it's art or a food they used to make or and we live in a community where a lot of the women I met, their husbands worked and they had the luxury of staying home with their kids. And that was great, but it wasn't 100% fulfilling. So, I asked these women, well, why are you so fulfilled with your own business? And they said, they had the flexibility to be with their kids. They had the flexibility to work when they wanted to, but it's an all the work all the time. Right. So I'm interviewing these women and I said, well, and I didn't have a following. I didn't have a publisher. I didn't have any of that. So when I asked these women, well, you have a venture and it's your baby, you're a venture mom. So that's how the term venture mom was launched. And
I forget, that was part of your title of your book, wasn't it? Did you change the title of your book? Or did you,
I never got that book published. It wasn't until I'd love to publish that book, 12 Ways to Find Your Fulfillment. But what happened was I realized, and the publisher said, you have to have a following. You have to have a blog and a platform and everything else. So I said, well, I have these really interesting stories of these women, and I love hearing a venture story. So I said, why don't I share the venture stories on a blog and build a platform so one day I can get a book? So fast forward, 5 to 7 years, and the book morphed into
A
Venture Mom.
community.
Well, it morphed into a community. It also morphed into, I've profiled now over 400 women. So I know their path, and it's always very similar. So when I interview a woman, I love sharing their stories. So what I did in the book was take what most of them go through and what most of them need to succeed. And then I also share their stories because I feel like that is what inspires other women to start a business. And that's my whole mission, is to inspire every woman out there to start her own business, whether it's full-time, part-time, just to earn extra income, or, because I think it's fulfilling and really satisfying.
And we were talking before. I mean, you've also been watching or you've been building this community at a time of also great change, right? Like I remember
Mhm.
when you and I were speaking and you're like, all right, I got a lot. Like I have this blog and this platform. How do we grow it? To now we have social media, 4 times the amount of social media to help promote and build these platforms. But since then, we've also had a pandemic and we've had remote work. Like so many different changes from when you kind of started your community to where it is now. What have been? Do you feel like your community has changed, or how you see venture moms, or have the venture moms themselves changed in terms of how they start their businesses? Is it easier for them to start businesses? Is it harder?
You know what? It's a lot easier because the tools that you find out there are better. Shopify is an example. If you want to start a marketplace and sell doggy doormats in multiple colors, at multiple prices, at multiple sizes, you can go on Shopify and set up your store, and Shopify will help you with the branding, with everything. In my book, I share a lot of resources because I believe you can do this on a dime. You don't need
Mm,
to hire a really expensive graphic designer to develop your logo. I mean, you can, and hopefully you hire an independent woman who has her own business to help you with your logo. But if your budget is tight, what's changed is you can Google, get a free logo, and you can start. And the thing is, you can always change it and upgrade as you build and make more money. So what's changed is the tools that you have. And the question I get a lot, how do I start a trademark? Well, on my site, I interviewed a woman who just does trademarks. The other
nice.
question I get a lot is, how do I build a website? And, there are a lot of independent women. That's their business. They will build your website for you. If you are somewhat technically savvy, you can build your own on Squarespace, or, I like WordPress because it's a more robust platform, but it is more difficult. It depends on what you need.
Mm, exactly. And Holly, in doing this for over 10 years, I would say you were not quite at a different generation of moms, but maybe a mid generation of women. Sorry, I'll say women because, as you said, you don't have to be a mom, but a mid generation of women who maybe come from a different time or skill set. Are you seeing venture moms starting out earlier ages or earlier stages in their life than when you first started this? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it before the kids are born versus the empty nesters? Is it while the kids are home? Is that trend changed in the time you've been doing this?
I think that when I first started out, the women in my network were in their 40s and 50s, and their kids were in school all day. And they're like, I have done the volunteer thing. I've played enough, tennis. I've run my 5 miles every day. I've gone to the gym, whatever. I walk the dog. Now I still have 4 hours. and I'm not feeling, I used to be a full-time worker and I have the luxury of staying home and raising my kids. So what is it? And, most of the women that I profile, they fall into it. So let's say you organize your bookcase and your friend comes over and says, "Oh my God, that is so pretty. Will you come over and do mine? Because I can't do it like that." So you go over to your friend's house and you organize her bookcase, and she tells a friend and she tells a friend. And before you know it, you're like, well, I could charge people to style their bookcases. So I'm going to start that business.
Nice.
Right. But most of the women, and the women I profile, a lot of them go on to be big time. Their food comes out, they do granola bars. They're in Whole Foods now, or they do a dog product, a pet product, and now it's all over the country. But my real niche is products and services, not at the Etsy range. It's more, the average price point of the product of the women that I profile, it's a $50 to $150 product.
Got it.
And they're not crafts. So It wouldn't even be on Etsy because you have to be a craft. These are things that say, the woman who did the doormats, the soggy doggy doormats, she found this fabric in China. She imported it. She made these beautiful doormats and started selling them online. She had them shipped to her house and the truck shows up and it's like, "Well, where's your loading dock?" She's like, "Well, this is my garage. Can you put them in there?" They're like,
"Here you go, load it up."
Loading dock. And she's like, "Well, we have to figure this out." So she loaded up her garage with her dog mats, and then she hit the road at pet stores in her local area. And that to me is the common thread. A lot of these women, even services, they start out tutoring their neighbor's kid who refers them to other people. And before long, this woman has a tutoring business where she can help kids and get paid for it.
I love that. And I'm so glad you mentioned products and services because you were talking about the organizer and I wanted to say, but wait, I know a lot of your venture moms are product based, right? And to me, that's a whole different skill set than the services, right? There's capital and there's distribution and there's a whole different way of thinking about sales. So I love that you actually are supporting kind of both of those, which can be very different. You talked about the commonality of people falling into it. Is there another commonality in that they're extroverted and really good at sales? Is there a commonality there? Or are there some people who have a great product or great talent and they've got to get some support in that? Because, for some people, extrovert and sales and chatting about stuff comes easy. For others, it's like the last thing they ever want to do.
Well, you can hide behind the internet too. I mean, if you're not an extrovert, you're still putting yourself out there on Instagram and Twitter and a newsletter. The commonality is something that people do really well.
Got it.
I know a woman who makes these amazing sweet spiced pecans, and she's really good at it. And I tried to make them. They were a flop. So I told her, and she doesn't want to do it, but I can find a venture in talking to anyone. I actually offer this thing called Venture Hour. And, one of the things that I find with women, a lot of people want a business. They don't know what to do. And I am sort of a venture detective. I have this questionnaire and I give it to women and they fill it out. And then we talk for an hour. At the end of the hour, I said, "Okay, this is what you should do. Here's how you get started. Start with this and you've got a business." For example, the spiced pecan woman, I said, "Listen, you can make these pecans, package them and sell them at the local farmer's market. And from the farmer's market, go there. And then you build as you go. You don't have to try and get in Whole Foods from square one. You start selling to your friends and neighbors. There's a progression. And I do this in the book. There's a progression for food products. There's a progression for services. So at the end of the book, I have delineated types of products. So the progression for food products is you make it for your friends and family, people love it. Then you go to the farmer's market, then you start putting it in small little stores, and you're learning all along. And then maybe you get a big kitchen and get, talk to other, and that's the thing about the venture mom community. So let's say you want to sell spice pecans. Well, look on the venture mom community at all the other stories I've done and reach out to that woman and say, how did you go from farmer's market to Whole Foods?
Right.
Because the whole point is to learn from the stories I've written and to reach out. And everyone wants to be a helper. Would love,
Yeah.
would love.
I love
Say,
that
oh
part
my
of community.
God, I love your spice pecans. Well, let me tell you what I did. Here's how I did it.
Nice. You touched upon it in your venture hour, and I was going to say, I assume now with well over 10 years and 400 stories and profiles, and you've seen the commonality, you've written the book. How do can you talk about the different ways people can get involved with you and or the venture mom community, right? I mean, I know there are myriad of ways to come in, whether you're profiled or whether you're giving advice or there's a marketplace. Can you share a little bit about that?
So, yes, absolutely. First of all, follow me on Instagram. It's venture_mom. And that's a very robust community. If you have a business, reach out. If you have a product, I will feature you in my What Would Venture Mom Wear? So I have a blog post, What Would Venture Mom Wear for brunch with her friends?
I love that.
Right. So I might pull a dress from, J. Crew has a new female designer, but I might pull a bracelet from one of my vendors. And then I might say, well, you want to be fit. So let's use this service, this yoga service or Pilates service. So then in the newsletter and blog, it links to those things. I also have a marketplace where if you have a product, I will sell your product in my marketplace.
Nice.
If you offer a service, Venture Mom Pink Book is a directory of services. And everyone in the Pink Book, I rotate through and feature those vendors. So if you're a home designer, an organizer, I have a woman who does pots. I have a woman called Rosie the Stump Grinder. She grinds stumps.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, exactly. And that's an unusual one, but good for her. And, I have a woman painter. I mean, I go back to my mission is supporting women. And so the whole platform is to showcase and support women-founded companies.
I love it. And that is, well, we'll put all those in the show notes. So in terms of the best ways to connect with you, but that is such a great segue into HAYVN, right? Like supporting women-backed companies. And our mutual friend Felicia launches HAYVN, and a handful of us are honored and privileged to sort of be around from the launch. Can you talk about, Holly, from your perspective, sort of, as somebody who'd already been talking to women business owners, how you saw HAYVN coming to life, how it's impacted your life? And I know also you've been a huge contributor to the success of HAYVN yourself. So I'd love to hear your kind of HAYVN story, as it were, from your vantage point.
When you're an entrepreneur, you've started your own business, you're very siloed and you need people to share in what you're doing and to share your struggles and your journey. So at HAYVN, it caters towards women entrepreneurs. I know they have men and they have other businesses, but the majority of the people at HAYVN are female entrepreneurs. So the community at HAYVN is ideal for a female entrepreneur. They've got programs and talks, and I'm really involved in HAYVN Hatch. That I'm one of the Venture Mom is one of the sponsors of HAYVN Hatch, and Christine Sullivan will, a lot of women are looking for money or just want to share their story. And HAYVN Hatch will walk you through developing your pitch. They also have an incubator. So if you have an idea, Hatch has an incubator that will take you from idea to income. Maybe not in 12 weeks, but they have a program. So whether you are a fledgling startup or midway or well into it, HAYVN is such a great resource for moving your business forward and for finding a community of other entrepreneurs so you're not alone.
So true. And the Hatch program I don't think we can ever say enough great things about the Hatch program. I'm always inspired, A, by the people who pitch, B, by their stories, C, by, the judges, D, by the community that comes around to support them. And then I think, let's say E, what happens after, right? Like, even if you don't win, I've just heard and even interviewed people here of the stories of sort of how that took them to a next level. So I'm excited you gave that a shout out, and we're lucky to have you to be a supporter of that.
Well, being involved, I mean, the people that HAYVN attracts, it attracts investors and customers, and, it's all about connection. So you win just by being a part of it because you're getting your story out there and you are exposed and meet all these other people that know someone who can help you, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, Holly, I'm glad HAYVN brought us together for a chance to catch up and hear how you are doing and the Venture Mom community is doing. Thank you for your time today. So we've talked about Instagram and your website are the best ways to kind of connect with you and reach out for women entrepreneurs who, where their business is their baby.
Yes. Follow me on Instagram and sign up for the newsletter on venturemom.com.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Holly.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.